Nice to have you here on our live streams, and I think we actually have very nice topic today. We announced it as a side by side comparison of Cloud Code and Junie. And before we start, just a little bit of prehistory, like pre story, how this stream happened. Ken and me had a conversation on LinkedIn, and we discussed that something didn't work for Junie or for Ken with Junie, and I thought, well, it's maybe a nice opportunity to discuss and see, because those tools are seemingly the same, but are very different. Like the internals of those tools are different. The way they are set up internally is different. They use different system prompts and whatever. So the outcome might be drastically different, even though they might be using the same model behind, right? So, so we thought it would be nice to compare somehow and come up with some examples and you know workflows. It's actually pretty hard to compare them. You need to feed in exactly the same requirements, and that probably is just time consuming and everything. Ken, you have a website, right?
Yes, it's Kousen IT. So KOUSENIT.com. Oh, you found it? There it is.
Yeah, there is. And there you have pretty nice list of different books. Makito Made Clear, uh, Help Your Boss to Help You, Cookbook. Like as far as I know, Ken is our certified Kotlin trainer, by the way. Um, Modern Java Recipes, very nice book. Actually, I have read it.
Oh, wow.
Pretty
You're the
cool.
one.
Yeah, there should be someone reading those books, right? Gradle recipes for Android and making Java groovy. And Ken has been very active on the groovy community as well for years. As I remember, you even had a podcast about that, right?
Yeah, the Groovy podcast went for many years, and it just kind of it never really stopped. It just slowed down because the pace of development in the Groovy world also slowed down. In principle, we could revive it at any time, but my co-host kind of moved on, and we're still trying to figure out what to do.
Exactly. So for those books, Ken mentioned that he has a certificate service, like somehow to sign those PDFs for those books. And can you can you tell us a little bit more how you are using it? Why is it needed? What is it doing?
Yep. Let me give you an idea. What happened was, I mean, this is what the impact has been of all these AI agents on my development world, is that I get silly little ideas for projects. And in the past, I would get an idea and I would look at it and I'd realize that it was too much work to justify the amount of time just really for what is essentially a gag or something small that might be fun, but I don't know. And now with the AI agents, they can do enough of the routine stuff that I can have fun with it. So
Hmm.
the genesis of this particular project is that when I started writing books, occasionally somebody would come up to me at a conference with a physical copy of one of the books and ask me to sign it, which I would make some gag about, well, that's going to deface the book and destroy all the resale value and everything, but I would do it. And then somebody later, as time went on, would come up with and show me that they had an ebook instead. They had the Kindle version or a PDF or something, and they joke about me signing the ebook. And I would make a big deal out of trying to find a marker so I could draw right on their Kindle or something. But obviously that wouldn't work. Well, it occurred to me after thinking about it that while I can't physically sign an ebook, I could digitally sign an ebook, right? And then
Hmm.
I thought, well, the thing about digitally signing an ebook is, in principle, all of those ebooks are identical. So I don't really, it doesn't really mean anything to do it, although I believe that on some of those books, like the Prags puts your email address at the bottom of every page, they'd be slightly different. But I started thinking jokes, and it occurred to me that what I could do is I could generate a PDF certificate of ownership, something that would say, thank you for buying whatever the book was. And I could put my own scanned signature on that and then digitally sign that. And what you would wind up with, and okay, I apologize ahead of time for this gag, you'd wind up with a self-signed certificate signed with my self-signed certificate. I need a rim shot somewhere. But at any rate, I mean, really bad joke. But the idea is that generating a PDF in Java, because I want to do all this in Java or Kotlin or whatever. I'm looking at the JVM ecosystem. There are libraries for generating PDFs, but they're very low level and kind of tedious.
Hmm.
Likewise, if you look at the security libraries in Java, there are libraries for generating keys and for generating digital signatures and certificates and everything, but they too are very low level and somewhat tedious. So that was always enough to discourage me from following through and actually writing this program because I didn't want to get lost in the mire of doing all that. And then along comes Claude Code. Now, this was before I really started looking at Junie seriously. I think Junie may have been brand new, or it's just a couple of months ago. I think it was out, but I didn't spend much time with it. Whereas I've been working with Claude Code more or less since it came out. So I think I started off by going to O3, going to the OpenAI one and saying, how would you design a system like this? And it came up with a rough design. And then I tried to implement it and kept running into problems. So I switched over to Claude Code. Now, let me share out my screen. Okay, if you want to grab mine there. This is what the result looks like at the moment. Okay, this is deployed at certificate-service.kousenit.com. So my last name's pronounced Cousin, like the relative, even though it doesn't look like it. And this is actually deployed on Heroku, if you're interested. And Heroku reads my GitHub repository. So whenever I check in an update on the GitHub repository, it downloads the code and provides this. And I've got a little form here to generate the certificate. So if I put in your name, if I put in Anton, how do you say it again? Aripov?
Archipov.
Arhipov. So accent, like typical American, I put the accent on the wrong syllable. And you put your name in here, and then you pick one of my books, and I put them in alphabetical order. Let me pick the Kotlin cookbook or something. And then I click generate certificate, and then there should be a brief delay, and it downloads a PDF. So if I look at that PDF, this is the result. Let me magnify that a bit. And you see it says certificate of ownership. This certifies that Anton Aripov is the proud owner of Kotlin Cookbook and has earned the author's eternal gratitude. There's my signed or scanned signature in there. And this QR code on the left actually would let you go to the same site and have it validate the signature. So that you could tell that it has not been damaged in transit and that it could only have come from me. You get with integrity and non-repudiation, they say. And this is generated whenever I want it, and then you could download the PDF and you got it. So it's all one elaborate gag. But by using Claude Code, and nowadays, if you want, you could use Junie to do this, I wound up building this entire system, not just the basic code, but also the packaging and deployment and putting it on Heroku and setting up the SSL links and all that stuff in about 2 days, maybe day and a half to 2 days. But of course, I keep thinking of things to change and update. And this is what I can now provide. And anybody's welcome to it. And by the way, the code is on GitHub. Here's my repository list. And if I just search on certificate, then here it is. It's called Certificate Service. And you can see that on GitHub, my account is under my last name. So Kousen, and then just called certificate-service, and all the code is here. This README was designed by Claude Code and all this information, everything, and I just refined it as we went along. Okay, so that's your
Interesting.
setup. That's the basic idea.
Perfect. Cloud Code, have you used only the terminal version of it or the plugin that we have in IntelliJ IDEA now as well?
Well, you can see over here, this is my IntelliJ, and I'm using, by the way, if you're curious, I'm using the high contrast theme. I find that projects pretty well online. The bright colors in the fonts on the dark background. Any rate, you can see I've got the Claude Code plugin here, but I have to say I'm not wild about it. It's nothing wrong with the plugin, but what all it does right now when you click on that is it would open Claude Code in a local terminal, which is just done here. And the problem with that, especially when I'm using a large font, is it's just not much room. Now I can update the code directly in here. And in fact, what it does is it shows it as a get difference. It shows it as the old code and the new code to try to highlight what's been changed. Let me get out of that. But also, every time I do something, it shows the code and I lose focus from this window. So if I just want to hit enter and go on, I have to go down and select this window again. And I find that a little bit annoying. So what I always, my pattern is to open it up in a separate uh, folder here. If I just type Claude in the root of the project, you could see I'm there now, and I'm able to look at the code here, and it will automatically update the code in the IDE. So I just switch over to IntelliJ and look at it there. So it's not as clean and nowhere near as integrated as Junie would be or as the plugin would be, but I need that extra space. I really do like that. It's just a personal style.
Indeed. In fact, if you have two screens or very wide screen, you can take any window, any tool window out of IntelliJ with the what was it, unpinned mode or something like that, and put those two windows aside, like or even on the different screens.
So you could
But
say I could
it's
simply do the remove from
yeah,
sidebar.
view mode. No, no,
Oops.
no,
Can
no.
I
Like
undo that?
uh, if you just do shift and Cloud Code.
Uh, there. Okay.
Yeah, that one.
So we,
So three dots where you were
actually, I
looking
think
at
I've got
this.
too many of them here. Let me close one just so they're all right. So the
Yeah,
three dots here.
yeah, three dots, and there is this view mode and dock unpinned. I think it was, or float maybe float. I think it's float. Yeah, so it kind of goes out, and you can drag
Oh,
and
I
drop it.
see.
But well, essentially, it's not different from
Yeah.
from what you do, and maybe it's even more natural to do the window switching with Alt tabs or
Yeah.
Control tabs, whatever the shortcut you have on the operating system. So it's not very different. But I started trying this
Right.
integrated plugin myself over the weekend, and I must say I actually like it. It's pretty snappy. Uh,
Good.
it it provides a good integration. Sometimes clunky, but it's a beta anyway, so there's like
Yeah.
my expectations aren't very high. But even at this stage, it's pretty good, I would say. All right. So what could we do? What could we do? Like
What I was going to do, what I always do when I look at a project and I haven't seen it before, is I'll say,
mhm.
tell me about this project and wait for an answer. Now I do that in Junie too, and Junie gives me just a little bit of information. This
Okay.
tends to give me a lot. Oh, by the way Claude Code works, if you just use it right out of the box, is you need to register with Anthropic and get an API key, and then everything's charged through the API, and that can get pricey pretty quickly. And in fact, I wound up using this so much that I switched to the Claude Max program so that it was tied to my overall Claude usage, and I pay a flat rate. And if I hit the limit that they impose, then I can't ask questions for a certain amount of time. The period renews every 5 hours. So if
Okay.
I can use it for 5 hours and 250 or whatever the number of queries is, and then I have to wait for that to renew again.
Okay. But that's it's a fair throttling, I would say. It's not that you have to wait until the billing period ends and you
Right.
know.
They just want a break. And then there's a level higher than what I have, but I have not needed it. If I went to the max level, I find that I take enough time outside of Claude Code during that coding process that I don't exceed the threshold of the number of queries very often at all. I think I've only done it once, and this has been perfectly fine for me. Now, again, some of that is, all these tokens being passed of the entire project back to Anthropic. Those are the tokens adding up. So I have more issues with the context window, with it, occasionally having to compact things, but we'll get into that because it'll come up automatically.
I see. It's interesting how you pose the question, the first question, because I would normally type something like, "What does this project do?"
Yeah, okay. Then
A little in a little bit cartoonish style, you know.
so now, by the way, first comment about Junie.
Yeah.
Uh, Gray on black just doesn't show up very well.
Yeah.
Just as a
I I
comment.
I guess the team did not look into the high contrast theme. Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, again, you get a lot of gray here, and when it comes up, and by the way, for those people who don't know on Junie, you do want to open it wider than it comes because when you only open it a little bit, you get everything in one window. When you open it a little more, you get the plan over here and the individual steps being executed to the right. Now, by the way, I have been a subscriber of the IntelliJ AI tools from the beginning. So I'm very happy with those. I have that up here, my AI chat, and it's right now it's set to use Claude 4 Sonnet or whatever. But and Junie, of course, is now included in the subscription.
Junie still uses Claude 3.7.
Yeah, but it's included in the overall subscription.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But well,
Oh, it's using
what
Claude
has been
3.7.
what has been a big question in the community, in the like by the users as well, is that if you have AI Pro, it runs out pretty quickly with Junie. Junie
Mm.
is an agent, and it will consume a lot of tokens for its work. So therefore, it's advisable to use Ultimate subscription. But I think we still lack pay as you go option, to be honest. But because if you run out of the credits, then there is no other option to reset somehow.
So this is going through the files one by one, and it's taken a little while. And all it's saying is, "Oh yeah, I've now opened this file to understand it," and this is part of the overall step. And it's like, yeah, I know. Just tell me what this project does. It's a little on the slow side, although I got to say, it's speeded up from when I first used it.
In fact, I'm not sure. Like I haven't measured with the time stopwatch, but all those messages were missing from the first version, and it was feeling even slower. So
Yeah.
I were insisting on adding those so that at least the tool talks to me what is happening. And for those actions that you see on the right hand side right now, whenever you have this I tooltip on the left from the title, it means that Junie is using the tool from the IDE actually. So it opens the files, it searches for something in the IDE using the IDE own tools directly.
So you mean this I tooltip right on the edge here,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
next to each of the file names?
Yeah,
By the way, is that font big enough you can see that? Okay.
yeah, I can totally see it. I
Okay.
can totally see it.
So it's using Claude 3.7 under the hood, huh?
Yes, it
Which
does.
is, I mean, that's fine. I upgraded to 4 because 4 came out, but I mean, I don't know that it's that dramatic. At any rate, here, after all that work, we get a paragraph.
Hmm.
This project's a Spring Boot application that generates, pardon me, personalized certificates of ownership for books featuring digital signatures and QR verification. It includes a RESTful API, a web interface, and a verification page. The implementation is error-free and all the tests pass. I don't know that it actually ran the tests. I mean, I think it would have told me that, right? I think it just
Did you
what its
execute
own
that?
internal tests ran.
Did you execute it in ask mode right now or in the normal mode? Because
I'm in
it,
ask mode apparently. No, I'm in code. I'm in the code mode.
well, that's a lie. It didn't execute any tests because if it
Yeah.
executes tests, it actually will pop up and you will see that it actually running the tests.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it always says this whenever I ask on a project.
I don't know exactly. This is something to check with the team, but I'm pretty sure this is part of the system prompts of the whole workflow, how the agent works. And maybe at the very end, when it succeeds performing the operation, it has these checkboxes. Did tests pass? Did something else pass? And so on. And then it tells you the tests passed, even though it didn't run them. So
Yeah,
that's
it's some
that's
kind
my,
of.
this is something I suspect, but I'm not sure.
I think you're right. I think this is an internal thing. Should we ask it what? what features we should add or what follow up or whatever?
Yeah, like let's try. Um,
Now I'm going to put that in the follow up. You don't think I should start a new task on that, or what's your style?
I like I would do a follow up here.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
Features do you recommend we ask? And I'll do the same thing over here.
yeah. So currently, what you did, you executed in the normal, in the chat mode again, not in the ask mode, but you didn't redirect it to put the result into some other file. So I would not be surprised right now if Junie starts doing something, but it opened the to do.
Wait, you're
Interesting.
saying, see, that's one of the problems I have with all these agents is that they tend to be a bit over enthusiastic. I
Yeah.
don't want it to go start adding things. I just want it to tell me. So here's understand and review and identify. Hopefully, it's not going to implement until we say, okay, sometimes I have to tell it, don't
Well,
implement, just tell me.
currently it finished. Maybe because it discovered this to do file. Maybe you should actually delete it somehow, like so that it doesn't distract
I can do that.
the
All right,
agent.
let me just make sure over here. This is now one of the criticisms of Claude Code is when you give it a task to do, you get a verb, and those verbs are different every time, and they mean nothing. Like
Oh,
this one says exploring,
I actually
right?
like it. I actually like it because when it streams, the output is sometimes saying super streaming or ultra streaming or
Yeah.
some other generated nonsense, but it's fun.
Now this I like. Say, a high priority user authentication, multi-tenancy. I don't know that I need that. Email delivery. That worries me because it's so easy to wind up being a. I don't have an email server, and I don't want to maintain an email server. So I have to think about that. Certificate templates, that could be good. Bulk certificate generation. What else do we have? Analytics dashboard. Ooh, that could be interesting. Enhanced
Mhm.
search and management, mobile optimized verification, database integration. I think that could be good. And API enhancements like rate limiting and webhooks and OpenAI. In the meantime, I'll do now what you said. I'll take my to do here and delete it. Okay.
And let's go to Junie and tell it the same, but at the very end, ask it to write this whatever result we are expecting to some markdown file.
Now, do you want me to just again type in what I type? I'm in the right mode now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I don't need to put it in Brave mode, right?
Um, well, you can. It will be just simpler. I mean, it
Okay,
doesn't hurt.
so as long as we know how to interrupt it, if it goes off on the tangent,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it goes on that.
So it will take probably a minute or so, but in Cloud Code, what I discovered myself, and I think I actually like for transparency, if you type the cost/cost,
Now,
it will actually show you. Um,
well, it would, except I'm already on a Claude Max subscription,
I
so it
see. I
doesn't
see.
tell me. Whereas if I log out and then log back in on the API subscription, then it would show exactly what you mentioned. And yes, it's very good about telling you the costs as it goes along. This is finished, so let me. I think I could just click on this directly, right?
Um, uh,
That opens it, the
yeah, that
editor,
that opens the editor exactly. Yeah,
and that's what you suggest we do, right?
yeah. Let's check it.
Okay, and then I got to get this out of the way. And at the moment, I'm in the editor and preview mode of Markdown. So
Yeah,
there's, let's see if I need to make that a bit wider, apparently.
yeah.
Rate limiting, CSRF protection, security headers. Boy, they really are into security here. Certificate revocation. It's a self-signed certificate. That's the thing. These AI tools, they have no sense of, hey, this is just a gag. But anyway, OAuth 2 integration, audit logging, secure storage. Uh, Again, I don't care that anybody can read the certificate. You know,
Indeed, indeed.
high
Um,
priority caching.
I actually like the idea of analytics dashboard. It
Do
feels
you?
something sensible. But maybe
Okay.
there's something else.
There it is under medium priority. Add analytics for certificate generation and verification.
I mean,
So
maybe even if you compare those two files, I'm not sure, but they most likely will be very, very similar by the features suggested by the both, because it's the same model kind of behind it. Even though, like in Cloud Code, you have for all Sonnet for all, and here it's 3.7, but the result
uh,
of this task will be pretty much the same. Yeah.
okay, so and then there's a bunch of other slash commands. The one that's going to come up, let me mention this, is compact. See, the compact says to clear the conversation history, but keep a summary in the context. I don't usually call compact myself. When the context window gets thin, when there's not many tokens left, it'll compact automatically and show me the summary. And there's always a loss of some context. It forgets things that we've decided or whatever. So I usually have to remember to update the Claude.md file, whereas with Junie, I suppose you'd update the guidelines, right?
So it works a little bit differently with Junie. We do that automatically, as far as I know. We just don't tell you.
Ah,
So you don't call compact. We don't tell you that we compacted something. There are some heuristics, and like in the beginning, maybe 3 months ago, I was running off the context window like constantly with Junie when we were testing it, and the team did some magic. I guess it's about compacting or summarization even. And I did a test, so I generated a full blown um, project for reverse proxy with support of server sent events and WebSockets with security configurations. And I didn't run out of the context window with one session. So I did like about 30 different follow up prompts on the same session. And I didn't run out of the context window. But that's not always the case. Sometimes people are still running out.
well, that's much better than what I'm seeing with Claude Code because I'm working on updating my LangChain for J, and both Spring AI released 1.0 like within the last 2 weeks. So
I
I'm
see.
I'm updating my LangChain for J course at the moment because I teach a lot of classes on the O'Reilly Learning Platform, and I've got a LangChain for J one like Friday of this week. And I wanted all the exercises updated and constructed and everything. And I'm going through them one by one with Claude Code and asking questions and trying possibilities. And it always tells me, oh, compacting the memory in, 10%, 12%, 7%, 3%, whatever. And I always feel like I lose something when it happens. So if you're saying you did all that work and it didn't do it, or only did it once or whatever, that's really remarkable. See, this is how you make the Claude.md file. If you don't just tell it, make a file called Claude.md. Unlike Junie, this Claude.md sits in the root of the project. And I always try to remind myself to tell it, please update both the README file and the Claude.md file as necessary. Or whenever we settle on a process, like I do a process where I say, um, whenever we're going to add a new feature, I would say raise an issue in the GitHub repository, make a new branch. I think it's vital whenever I work with these tools to make a new branch because they love to go off on their own and just crank away. And if I decide, wow, I don't want any of that, I didn't like that at all, it's great to
Indeed.
be able to just say, okay, I won't merge that branch or I'll get rid of it or something.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I tell it the process, for every modification we make, raise an issue, create a branch, switch to that branch, implement the issue. I will review it. I'll make sure all the test cases pass. Then we'll merge it and we'll push it to GitHub and close the issue. And that I wind up getting stored in the Claude.md file when I update everything.
Cool.
Now, I think this
Yeah.
file, I think this project has one already. Yeah, here's my Claude.md file. So now this was generated using the init command. So it already did some of these things, must be in its template. Come up with the build commands. How do you test it? What are the style guidelines? And that's all it has. So it really doesn't have a lot right now, although it's basic generic Spring stuff.
To me, it looks very compatible with Junie guidelines. So you kind of can just change the file name, and it will just work. I think.
Oh yeah, well I would tell it this way. I'll say, please take the Claude.md file and store a copy as.
Again, this is like being too lazy.
Actually, what's the folder you put it under? Is it?
Junie. Yeah,
It is .junie, right?
yeah,
But that's what it's called, guidelines.md.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't want me to run that?
No, you can try. You can try. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it will do what you like.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, doing from like CP, like the old way, the old
yeah,
Unix
yeah,
way.
yeah. Make it. Yeah, well, I could do it by hand, but why, right? See, there's the make direct. Now, this will also bring up the issue of permissions, right? Because here it comes. There's the file it's going to create, and this is the contents, and it says, do you want to do that? And now you get to decide whether to give it permissions or not. My general rule is that if it's read-only stuff, like doing a search, a find, a query, anything like that, I let that go automatically. But if it's
Mhm.
going to modify something like this, I usually don't put in the don't ask again this session. I usually have to approve modifications, even though that slows me down, but that seems to be safer. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead. If I'm afraid if I said yes and don't ask again this session, it might do more than just guidelines.md. So I'm just going to say yes and see what we get.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
that's different from uh, Brave mode inside of Junie, which is not nearly so granular, right?
We in Junie we have the allow list, but I like the interaction in Cloud Code, the way it asks and then remembers like what to do within the session, and then kind of reset its permissions like when you start the new session. I think it's a nice pattern, and pretty nice one. Yeah. Maybe let's pick up some functionality to implement, and
Yes.
but I'm wondering how can we do that side by side. Maybe in a branch, maybe first with one tool and then with the other one.
Well, let me give it a branch, or let me give it that process again. Okay. Now, by the way, this one is one that because Heroku is reading my GitHub repository, when I change it, it's getting uploaded automatically. I don't
Hmm.
want to push these changes to GitHub until I'm happy with them because it's like pushing into production.
Hmm.
That's the only
Yeah.
downside. So I would want to make a branch here, and but I'm not necessarily going to approve the changes until we decide that they're worthwhile. Now, do you do test driven development? Do you write the test first and everything, or not?
Me? Well, sometimes when I'm feeling fancy, but
Okay,
haven't
all
done
right.
haven't done that for a while now.
So we want to add now. What functionality do we want to add? The analytics dashboard, or was there something
Yeah,
else in mind?
let's go with the analytics dashboard.
Analytics dashboard to this project. Please suggest. I know I'm still polite to these things. When I for one welcome our new AI overlords. But at any rate, how to implement this, but don't do it. Here is the plan. Oh my goodness! Holy mackerel!
Oh my god.
I'm afraid to ask it to go through all this. Use metrics, system metrics, API usage, database layer. Now, I do think I have Spring data on this, so it should be able to do it with JPA. Yeah, Spring JPA for the data persistence, micrometer, Spring Boot actuators, schedule test. Holy mackerel. Do we really want to undergo something like that? Okay, I'm going to say, please make a new branch before implementing any of these steps. Now it says this implementation would provide comprehensive analytics without major disruption to the existing code base. Do we believe it? So I'll start with that, and then we could do the same thing over on Junie and put in a different branch. So here it's calling feature slash analytics dash dashboard. Okay, so over here, and we'll see how that handles that as well. I mean, they're both using Claude, just slightly different versions under the hood. So they should come up with pretty similar recommendations, I would think.
Yeah, but okay. Now it actually generated the terminal command because it's not like
we're in Brave mode.
it's not always the case that it will execute the git command.
Well, I clicked on Brave based on your recommendation, so I'm going to blame you. You know, if anything happens to it, but that's all right. And now it's walking through them. Now, should I warn Claude that there's another branch? I don't know. This should be its own. So, all right, it switched to the new branch. Okay, please proceed. And we'll see what it does, knowing that it's going to ask for permission anytime it needs to edit a file.
I see. Now, what I see a big difference here of how I use the tools with what you are doing right now is that I usually generate this plan the same as you did, but then I would ask the agent to generate a task list, a like detailed task list for every step in that plan as well. So if our plan is 100 lines, then the task list will be something like 400 lines or so.
Yeah.
And I don't have the evidence that this is like it works better than any other approach, but I just recently noticed that if you feed the task list in to the agent, then the probability of getting what you want is a little bit higher. Is the branch correct right now?
Yeah, this is the one from Junie. This is the one from Claude Code.
All right.
So I'm on the Junie branch. This is the plans file that it came up with. Analytic event service, pardon me. Data storage. Yep, there's the tables. JPA repository. Wow, that's quite the query that they embedded in there. That is, it's got the wrong package too, but all right.
Do you have Spring Data JPA or Spring Data JDBC in the project?
I usually use Spring Data JPA, but I don't. Let me check with this particular one. Where's my build file here?
Gradle.kts.
Yeah, so I don't have any database support at all in here. So because I didn't have anything stored, so it would need to add it, and I probably want JPA, don't you think?
This is one of the things that is very annoying for me. I usually prefer JDBC myself, but it seems that all the LLMs are so overtrained with a bias towards JPA. So if you don't specify that, you get JPA by default.
Uh-oh, hit a problem. Connection error. I wonder if this is because we got both AIs, both agents working on it at the same time.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because
I rarely get this.
Pretty often.
Can you continue? And let's see if it.
Yeah, it happens pretty often with.
No, that's rare. I have not had that problem happen much at all. Were there any questions while we were? I was trying to glance just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Let's see. Well, people are just commenting. There are no questions really.
Okay,
folks.
Yeah. So
don't hesitate. Don't hesitate, folks. Ask questions. We are happy to answer.
Pardon me. Claude is saying Spring Data, as you say, JPA, and the actuator, and the H2 database, and of course, Postgres at runtime. Isn't that interesting? So it wants to put two databases in there, presumably one for development, one for production. I mean, it says runtime only. I don't see test containers in there, and I don't have Postgres on my machine. I usually run Postgres through a Docker container. like with
exactly.
test containers, and adding micrometer.
Yeah,
Huh.
it feels there is some bias in those models that they are still doing stuff the old way. Like by default, they almost never consider test containers, and this
Then
is
I'm going to
something
say,
new.
then I'll
Yeah.
say no and say, please add test containers support for running Postgres and Spring Boot. So I think, there's a starter for that,
Hmm.
via the starter. Let's see if it figures that out. The other thing that didn't work for me, because I saw the blog post about the AI assistant, AI chat here, and that you could add um, the MCP servers that way.
Yeah.
And in fact, you'll see that mine, for some weird reason, they just don't work at all. When I look at my MCP servers here, these are the ones from my configuration file, but you see they all fail or don't start.
Yeah, I
And
I
these are
know
the
I
right.
know the reason. I know the reason. It's a timeout issue, and it's already fixed. By the way, it's just not released. It's fixed somewhere in developer development branch. I know how to change that in the internal options, so I can tell you to try later on. But yeah, so it's not as usable yet. Like if you just take the default configuration, you most likely will fail.
Okay, then I'm glad to know that it isn't anything I'm doing,
Yeah.
so that's working fine. Okay, good. It did update the Gradle build file probably on the root. So that updated Gradle build even on the analytics dashboard. That's the one associated with Junie. This is the one associated with.
Code.
Oh wait, where's the other one? The one we made for Junie.
The one is on the like if you look in the history, there was a command that it was running with the branch name.
Where's the history? I didn't even see that.
If you scroll up a little bit.
Oh, just go up and look at it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I
Uh,
think there was. When did I say that? There's the project. Open to dos. Add to dos. And
yeah,
then yeah,
yeah,
it was called. They're both called analytics dashboard, but one's in a feature slash and the other is not.
yeah.
So okay, that's good. So that's working then. Okay, and this is still. Oh yeah, this keeps waiting. Let's see our DTO here. This is funny. I use this style a lot. I don't know if anybody else does. When I have a bunch of records, I like to make them all inner records, if you will, on a class, just so I can look at them all together, because they're all related anyway. And this way I could see them all together like that. And then you do a static import of the wrapper class. Now, they called it DTO, which is okay. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I could always rename that later, and all I have to do if I ever make them top level records as individual files is remove that static import.
Uh, Maybe I didn't program Java enough lately, but can you put a public record into a public class? Is it a valid code?
No, well, into a public class, yes, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the neat things about records. You can nest
Okay.
records in records. You could nest them. You could put a public record inside a method, even sometimes inside a method argument. It's amazing how deeply you could nest those things. The
Okay.
call gets a little weird, but it does work. Now let's take a look at this just a second. So here's the certificate event repository, which is a JPA repository of type certificate event and a UUID. Now UUIDs, from what I understand, are not a good idea for primary keys on a database. I'm going to go with it
Especially
because, pardon
especially
me?
with JPA, especially with JPA.
Okay, well then I could tell it what do we have for certificate event. I think we were just looking at that, weren't we? Uh, Actually, I won't. I'll come back to it. So find by event type, find by certificate ID, find by timestamp between. In fact, this is a normal thing here. Let me hit no and say, I've heard that UUIDs make lousy primary keys in JPA.
There is a
What
question
do you
about
think?
just a second. There is a question about Junie. I think worth answering. So, does Junie work in each ID in a way specific to the particular programming language, or does it work the same way in all the IDs? So, the language itself does not matter that much, but the tooling that supports the language matters. Because to run the compiler, to run the linter, to run the build system, we need to know about those tools. And so, tooling around the programming language is, specific, and we have to integrate it with that. And that is why we didn't roll out Junie in all the IDs at once. We were rolling it out step by step.
For
Um,
what it's worth, I've run Junie. I mean, I know you have way more experience with it than I do, but I've run it in IntelliJ IDEA and in PyCharm and in Web. What's the web one?
WebStorm.
Yeah, WebStorm, right? And it's been very successful in all of them. It's worked well. It's worked pretty much the same way in all of them, I guess is what I mean to say.
Yeah. Um, all
So what
right.
it's saying here is that, now this, by the way, is typical of AI tools. I just roll my eyes at them because they love to tell you, oh, that's a brilliant suggestion, or that's wonderful, or you're so good. And I always go, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just, anyway, uh, UUIDs I knew had performance issues. And they say use a sequential long with a generated value or composite key with a timestamp. So, yeah, please use yeah, okay.
All right.
To tell me.
Meanwhile, let's create a task list for tuning. So
Okay,
we
now we
have,
got that plans.md file. Is that
yeah.
not enough?
Yeah, normally what I do, I would ask Junie to generate a detailed enumerated task list based on the plans.md file and put it into the tasks.md file instead. And even sometimes I'm a little bit more specific. I'm telling it to put the placeholders for, for marking, for tracking the progress next to tasks, like something like square braces, so that it could
Uh,
put an X inside or something like this.
yeah, I'll just say along with tracking capabilities, that ought to be enough
Yeah,
for it to figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. Let's try that. Let's try that.
Sure, that's no problem. Now, again, I haven't approved much here. Oh, updated both entities to use the long primary keys with identity generation strategy. Yeah, that's always simple.
Hmm.
And now I could say, okay, feel free to continue. I have no idea what we're going to get out of this thing. How's this working? So it's submitting the process. Pardon me, the request.
Let's check the task list. It's
Yeah. Now,
huge
can I
this
just click
time.
here? Yes, I can. Okay. But the Junie window doesn't get out of the way. You ever notice that? When you
Yeah,
click on the file, Junie doesn't say, oh, you probably want the full screen there. And it came up with a diff here. I don't really want to see the diff. I want to see the whole content.
yeah, because you clicked on the file, and by default it's currently a diff action. So maybe this is a little of
So maybe I
UX.
want to click on the edit button here instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's
Okay.
breaking down everything into priorities. It doesn't have little check boxes. I was
Yeah.
hoping there'd be a way.
So I usually specify this requirement a little bit more explicitly, like exactly even specifying how these checkboxes should be framed. But
To use checkboxes that can be filled as tasks are completed. There. Let's see if it'll fix it. You know, it should be able to do that, right?
well, again, it may be and maybe not. Like whenever I want to get a good result, I try to be more explicit what the checkbox is. This time it seems that it recognized, like it generated the task list, the plan right now, and the checkbox was right there.
Now, this is, yeah, I mean, if I'd remembered to say it ahead of time, yeah. This is interesting because I didn't think I was using YAML format. Let me just check and see. Well, let me get this out of the way for the moment. I thought my application.properties file,
Yeah.
response entity.ok, content type, header, application.pdf. Oh, that's good.
Well, interesting user experience that we can see here. As you see, Cloud Code is not really much faster on editing the single files, but the fact that it just spins the tokens there is some indicator that something is happening, not just a spinning icon. It
Yeah.
feels like it's faster, but in reality, if
Actually,
you
that,
measure time on a single file, maybe it's not.
yeah, I don't think that it doesn't feel any faster to me.
Okay.
But in fact, when I wasn't on the Mac subscription, I hated seeing those tokens spin by like that because those are all costing money. Even though whenever I did things analytically, I mean, with Java directly with the API, I mean, I'd
Hmm.
have trouble spending a nickel, or a dime. Here, you could see the cost accumulate. But now that I'm on the Mac subscription, I don't care that the tokens are spinning by.
I see.
So wow, we're cranking away. Look at all those steps though that are all almost done. Now it's building the UI and writing. Now it did interestingly enough write the tests last. I could have asked it to generate the tests ahead of time
Hmm.
and even run them, but and sometimes since tests normally are non-destructive, I do let it run the tests, but I usually run them myself. But
Um,
sometimes I do.
let's check
How's this one
Junie.
going?
How's Junie doing?
Well, look, it's making that tiny little change, one line of the file over and over and over and over again.
I think it's unticking. Oh, is it doing like replace
Uh-huh.
one by one? Ah,
Yeah, see, it's used this for not started tasks and an X for completed and a minus for in progress. So it's changing them all, but it's not changing them as a global search and replace. It's doing one by one by.
one by one by one.
Now
No,
that's
not
probably
good.
Claude. That's not. I wouldn't blame Junie for that as much as I'd blame Claude, but that's. I didn't
Uh,
expect that. Because I mean,
it,
we could have done a global search and replace.
and it does git add even. Okay, it's because
Oh,
we told it in the beginning, and I noticed that if you force it or you make it to do something with git right in the beginning, then it will continue doing those
well,
commits and branches and whatever.
yeah. Whenever it does Git commands in a Claude session, I have to approve that until I say, yeah, it's okay to go ahead and do it.
Hmm. And we are in
That's
the brave
interesting.
mode right now. Yes.
I am in brave mode. That is correct. That's right. Do you feel brave?
I'm always feel brave. I'm only using brave mode with Junie.
Really? You
Yeah.
really are brave. Wow. I think we
Okay.
finished. Yeah, yeah. Should we take a look at it? Let's
Yeah.
go look.
Let's take a look.
They're just at the top level.
That is fine. This is a pattern I
Yeah.
have seen happening. Let's ask it to implement the first section, and then we can go back to the.
Okay. The first section is the. Now, do you mean the first section of the first task?
I would just tell it like collection layer, like
Okay.
implement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please implement the data collection layer task, marking each task as complete when done. Good enough?
Hmm. Yeah. Let's try
Okay.
that.
And we are on the proper branch on Analytics dashboard here. Okay. Let's see.
Good. All right. So let it spin, and we'll check it later.
Yeah. Okay. So now over here, again, I'm not in brave mode. Oh man. Try again. Yeah, I'm having all these connection errors, but that is very unusual. But it does seem with retries, it does seem to figure it out.
Yeah, we had this with Junie in the beginning very often, and the team had to do some handling of those situations as well.
That is annoying. How's this one going? Working,
Working.
sending the LLM request.
But why is it editing the? Probably did not complete the task list, like changing the checkboxes, and what basically happened. We told it to continue.
Oh man,
This is bad.
this is not helping. Yeah. Now I
Yeah,
think, don't you just hit escape or something to get it to stop? Is that right?
you can just ask it to stop if you
I
want
can't
to.
type in there. There's nowhere for me to type right now.
On the left
Oh, I
of
could hit
the
the
upper,
stop
yeah,
button.
yeah, yeah. You
Well, I
can.
mean, we've gone this far. I'm tempted to let it finish.
Yeah, but like anything you do, you learn from it, right? So now we learned that in the beginning you should be more specific, so that you don't have to specify this extra requirement of having the check boxes and then having the agent going line by line and updating those.
Okay. Oh, another connection there. That's really disappointing. I've got both of these using Claude. I wonder if I should have switched this one to use a different model. No, actually, this is a different model, though. It is using 4.
Yes, it's using the different model, and the API keys are different, and like the only thing is the same is the network card, which is I don't think it's a bottleneck. I think it's purely on Anthropic side. Something
Yeah, I
is not.
think it's Anthropic. Yeah, okay. Then here, rather here I have no choice of model. The model's all built into Junie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Claude Code, I can change from one Claude model to another Claude model, but I can't say, "Oh, use OpenAI or use
You,
you know
yeah.
Perplexity
You
or
know
use
what?
this
You know what?
one."
I'm thinking. Let's stop this, and
Yeah,
because it
okay,
will just and start the new
yeah.
task instead, not a
Now
follow up.
I don't have the. Is there any way to bring back the previous task I wrote?
Like on the left hand side, you can see those numbers one, two, three, four,
Oh,
five.
I could just copy and paste that without putting in the
No,
part
no,
about
not
my.
not. Sorry, not here, but start a new task because this will
Oh,
be like a follow up, right? So instead, yeah, it could be this.
from tasks.md. I want to tell where that task lived, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it will be a follow up, and it will not take into account what you had in the previous sessions, and will not be trying to update the task list one by one.
Now, another thing you can do in Claude Code, which I have not done actually, I've had the opportunity to do this, is you can create your own slash commands. Like these commands that come up with a slash, like clear, compact, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you can define your own.
So
And you just have to
something
save
like
them in a particular location.
like macros, basically.
Oh, wow. It did the Gradle build. Why did it do a Gradle build?
It tried
And
to
then,
validate the code, probably.
yeah, but that a build would mean also running tests and everything. And I usually just do a compile. I sometimes run the test myself again. Okay, what's
Oh.
the problem coming in here? They did request.purchaser email, update the certificate controller, and put in. So this is returning an optional. So they
Mm-hmm.
want to say, do you want to do that? I'm going to go with it, but we're going to have some code to look at, to see whether this is worthwhile or not. I mean, normally I wouldn't be trying to do a screencast at the same time I'm coding with this thing. I would actually be, hey, let me go look at the code, make sure it's okay. iTerm would like to access data from other apps. Sure, what could go wrong? Okay,
Okay.
so how's this one doing?
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, so there's the event service controller,
But
same
but
controller.
um, but but Junie is pretty brutal when it starts doing the code like changes, right? It goes up like at your code and will change it until it's done. Like it will not ask the confirmations because you have the brave mode on. It will validate like if there are tests, It will run them. If there aren't tests and you ask it to write tests, it will try to write tests and run them again, and until it's done or until some fixed number of iterations is passed.
I've noticed that with Claude Code, that sometimes Claude will get into a bit of a loop. It will try to do something, it won't work. It'll then do a whole bunch to undo it, and then try again, and it'll wind up doing the same thing or something very, very similar over and over and over again. And you've got to watch for that because you're burning tokens, as it goes along. I wound up
Um,
spending like $20 in an afternoon, not realizing that it was trying to redo basically the same thing over and over again. I had to say, stop, you're doing it wrong, you know?
yeah. Well, it happens with Junie as you monitor. You can see sometimes like 15 lines being added to the file and then removed from the file and then added again
Yeah.
24 lines and so on. But it means that the first option just failed. Maybe it didn't compile. Maybe some test didn't pass and so on. So it
Yeah.
rolls back and tries with the new knowledge that it acquired from the previous iteration.
This is making some pretty good progress.
Yeah.
Adding the getter and setters for the endpoint field. This, by the way, for anybody watching, this is why I keep open wide enough to see both the individual files being edited and the plan to see the
Same.
pieces.
Same.
Yeah. It's funny. I've been watching some of the YouTube videos to see that talk about Junie and everything, and I've been really surprised how few people mention that. To make it wide enough to see the plan while it's executing.
Interesting. This is how I use it, like on my live streams, and
Yeah.
usually show it. But probably I'm already, spoiled by this because it's just the
Do
way I
do you
do.
know do you know what font this is using? I mean, is there a font
Uh,
that we could, like, if we want to make this bigger?
it's
Is it the
it's
console font or the?
no, it's a JetBrains Mono, I think.
Well, I know I'm using JetBrains Mono, but if I wanted to increase the size of the font in here, I mean, this font's obviously bigger than that font. You know,
Oh,
this
it's
is the one
because
in the Markdown file.
you increase the font for the editor when we're starting the stream, but
Right.
this is part of the UI. So if you do zoom, it will increase that font as well.
Well, wait a minute. Here, it ran the test.
Yeah.
Jacoco. Wow, I didn't know we added Jacoco. Did you see
Uh,
that?
no, but like, did you have that already installed or?
I didn't think I might have. It's possible. I don't remember because there was probably a point where I said, "Okay, let me know what the code coverage is, and come up with some more tests." I
Oh yeah,
probably did. It's
yes.
been a
I
week.
I I just checked. I just checked. You had Chacoco test report.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since I've opened this project, and that's enough time for me to forget half the implementation anyway. Let's see. These all look good. Wanted but not invoked. The save.
Yeah.
Actually, there were zero
So
invocations with it. Well, that's a mock. Okay.
So as you can see, like on the right, like in the console,
Oh,
it tries to fix it, and
and
now
it
it
did.
fixed it. But let's check. Let's check. Did it add the ignore annotation and then it passed, or did it actually fix something?
Right. And let me close this file so I can see better. I'll close them all. Um, let's look under the build, right, to see the tests, reports, reports, test index.html, and look at it in here. It's doing the analytics service test, and yeah, it looks okay. Standard error. Why is it in Java from the beginning logging goes to standard error? I've never understood that. Even info messages go to standard error. Oh well. That looks fine. Of course, I have to go look at the actual class. The class is analytics service test. So let me get Junie out of the way. Close that. There.
Okay.
Okay. There's the mock set up and using completable futures and everything. Sweet. Verifying the metrics.
Looks legit, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is more than just add disabled or whatever.
Yeah.
What
Well,
what's our
it
warning here? Oh,
uh,
inline value. Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
mhm.
Okay, and meanwhile, done. So 1, 2, 3, 4 files changed, 3 new files here, all added to Git. Data collection layer was enabled or was implemented with an analytics event service class and tracking for that. Now that was just task one, right?
Yep.
Let's go see if it did check it off, right, on the task list.
Yep. It was right in the end of the. Okay.
Actually, it
It
should be down
it
here.
didn't. It
It did
didn't.
not.
It did
No.
not. Yeah.
Okay. But that's progress. And then how's this doing? Still waiting for me. Running the tests on the verification controller test and then looking for anything failed. That's another thing I like about these agents is that, I mean, with Gradle, I've been using Gradle for so long, I mostly know the commands by heart. But with like Git, the Git things that I know, I'm fine with. But there's tons of stuff in Git that I forget the actual syntax for. And of course, the qualification for an AI tool to be helpful is you have to be doing something that is normally done. You just don't know it or don't want to
Mhm.
do it, and that's really helpful. All those Git, um, the what did I do recently? I think there was a cherry pick it did once, and I'm like, oh god, if I have to do a Git cherry pick, I'm
I
I'm
see.
I'm in
But
trouble.
sometimes people forget about using Git, and maybe the directory is not even shared. Like it's not even a Git project. Like the Git repository is not initialized. In
Oh,
um, in
you're gonna be
IntelliJ,
doomed.
we have a feature called local history.
Oh
So
yeah,
so
I
if you go
love
there,
that feature.
try it right now because we
That
already edited a few files. If you just hit Shift and do local history.
Oh, I always do it on a file by file basis. So what do you feel like? Show history
Yeah, just show history.
or recent changes? All right, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, on
Uh,
the left hand side, you can see the changes made by Junie. So whatever snapshots you have, they are
look at all that.
indicated that this is the Junie that was changing it, and this is very useful because, well, you are not really in control when those changes are happening.
Yeah.
And after a few iterations, maybe the process didn't go where you anticipated it to go, and you want to roll back. And maybe there is no Git history, like it doesn't do commits on every change. So
Uh-huh.
I find it very useful that there is now a marker that this change was introduced or this snapshot was introduced by Junie.
I I love the so okay, your point is first of all, I agree with you that local history is awesome. That has bailed me out many times when things were not, as you say, I didn't commit every change or whatever, and I just need to go back to an earlier version of a given file. What you're pointing out is that Junie is somehow marking them so that all those changes are being noticed as part of the local file history. And I
Yeah.
think you mentioned that on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah.
Somebody did recently, and I thought that was wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great because that way you could restore things even after the smallest of changes that went down the wrong path.
Because it's so easy to deviate from your plan, right? Otherwise you have to always eagerly track of your work, like to do commits in this local branch, and then remember to make those commits and keep the control over the agent all the time. And this is like it feels a little bit too much then in this case. And your first step with the agent might be like almost perfect, but the second step was like bad one, and you want to roll back only that bad step that happened and start over from somewhere in the middle of those changes. And then this local history is like godsend.
Yeah, I really it's bailed me out more than once. I can't think of what the specific circumstances were, but I was very happy to use it anyway, and to see that Junie changes get marked that way too, which I guess I just assumed. Maybe just to save some time, I'm going to say yes and don't ask again this session and let it just edit things. This is brave mode for Claude Code, and it just goes
Right.
against my natural tendency. But again, we're running into these things I don't want to take forever here. Yeah, I'm just very happy that Junie changes are marked as changes in local history as well. Oh, it introduced an active profile for the test. It also
Mhm.
likes to do this. If you notice that the AI tools really like to use fully qualified class names
Yeah, yeah.
or instead of importing the package, it's really odd.
It happens like to me in it happens with some specific packages like Kotlin X serialization, for instance.
Mm,
When it
mm,
adds this serializable annotation, then
hmm
it adds the package. But for everything else, it's just import.
Isn't that interesting? By the way, I really liked Kotlin serialization. I was very happy when that got added because Java still doesn't have a JSON serialization library in the API. Now, of course, everybody uses either Jackson or JSON, but
Yeah.
Kotlin's got one built right into the library now.
Yep. It's part of the
Is that,
core libraries. Yes.
is that where you spend most of your time? Is in the Kotlin world?
Sorry.
Do you mostly do Kotlin, or do you do Java, or do you?
I mostly do Kotlin, but for demos, I sometimes fall back
Oh,
into Java because when people want to see exactly what they use, and then I show them with the language that they use.
did you see a comment that said Sam Altman will yell at you for saying please to an AI tool? And as far as I'm concerned, anything that annoys Sam Altman would be a good thing. I mean, there's no reason to believe anything Sam Altman says about anything. He's a pure marketeer. He'll say whatever he thinks will sell more of his company. And I don't think he understands half of what he says. Really annoying to me. But yes, I have heard him say that saying please and thank you and all these words cost tokens, and those tokens add up, and therefore there's a big cost involved. And I really had a tough time not just rolling my eyes at that whole thing. But I remember that little discussion on social media too. There was a question. Do you see that? Is there a way to set up a Junie license without being
uh,
tied to the ID? Oh yeah, you take that one.
yeah. I'm not sure, like if I will answer that if I'm
Oh,
correct or not. I think it is possible, but damn, I don't want to lie because I'm not 100% sure.
okay. I'm sorry, I wouldn't
Please,
have brought it up.
Luis, please come to our Discord and ask support to answer this question, and then I hope they will help you.
Ah, look, I finally got the warning here.
Aha.
Com- Context left until auto compact. Now, what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on that number. And
Hmm.
if I hit the end of a natural break, then I'll say, okay, time to update Claude.md in the README. And then I'll do a manual compact just to reset it myself at where we're not in the middle of an important conversation. And then I'll start it. Then we'll go on it from there. The problem is if I just let it go until it auto compacts, it could compact in the middle of something we're doing. And it becomes forgetful in an irregular way. You never know exactly what it's going to remember and what it isn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay.
it's getting ridiculous.
Let's try again.
But I think
How's
we're going to
Junie?
get done.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
How?
Junie is finished. Remember, we left that
Oh,
at this
yeah.
stage
We didn't tell it to continue.
to go on to. You want me to tell it to continue?
Yeah, yeah. Let it work. I mean,
All right.
let's
You
see.
think we should do it as a new task again?
Here I think it can be a follow up because we are like following the
Okay.
task list.
Uh, please proceed to the next task in the task.md file.
Yeah.
And let's see.
So.
Oh, we're doing okay. Adding, I think we're almost done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Adding authentication for dashboard access. That's still hanging in there.
So it's a coincidence. On one of the streams, I think 2 streams ago, I was fancy trying something with the. Oh, I have some special effects there. I was trying to implement a functionality in an existing project. So I found one, just open source project, and I checked the open issues, and there was an enhancement proposal for that project. And the project is stealing PDF. So like all kind of operations with PDFs, adding watermarks, adding certificates, signing.
Hmm.
Um, so I picked one, and we implemented that with Junie. There is a recording of that live stream, and I tried the same with Claude yesterday. If it would be able to implement, I succeeded. So on the first try, it was like it destroyed the project completely. On the second prompt, I feeded the exception into the into the terminal, and it
Right.
fixed that one. And on the third one, it finally implemented what I needed. It was pretty fast. The layout or the UI changes it suggested weren't that fancy as with Windsurf or Junie or Cursor, but it did get the job done. And the final cost, like the final result out of there that I had, was that it cost me $3.64.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and here's the commit, by the way, for the whole feature.
Uh huh.
So added the JPA entities, implement the analytics service, make a REST API, build a dashboard with TimeLeaf and Chart.js, add API usage, configure H2, test coverage with test containers, track metrics, real-time stats. Yeah, be my guest.
Let's see.
But I'm not going to have it push it to GitHub
Please,
yet.
please, please, please don't. Let's try to run it locally. Maybe is it possible?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. I do normally run it locally. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Key features implemented. I mean, that's basically everything. There's the REST endpoints. To access it, do a boot run and go to localhost 8080/admin/dashboard. I don't know if I should do that while this is cranking away on a separate
No, it's
branch.
it's fine. It's fine.
You think
It's
so?
okay. Yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
then in order to do that, I got to switch to the other branch, right, to run it?
Oh wait, cannot you just run it in the terminal? Is it?
Well, I could. Okay. Maybe I'll do it that way then. I'll do it because I would go to Gradle and run it
Uh huh.
from here.
But then you have to switch.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. So I could just open the terminal here.
No, you can ask Claude to run it.
Oh, I always forget that I could do that. Please uh, execute the boot run task in Gradle, or using Gradle. The only problem is that's going to lock up this terminal. You know what I mean? Until I shut it down.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Wait.
You think so, huh? All right, let's
Yeah,
see.
it's fine.
Here we go again. Launching. What are the odds we got the launching verb? Usually those verbs have nothing to do with whatever's actually going on. No?
Well, this time it kind of is
Yeah,
legit.
it's perfect,
Yeah.
right? But I generally would do this in a separate terminal, just to
Okay.
make
There
sure.
there is a good comment in the chat. So if Junie uses Claude Sonnet and Claude Code uses Sonnet as well, what is the reason of completely different results? You have to understand that the agent is not just one shot command into the chat window, right? The agent is a like completely like different workflow. There will be a lot of iterations. The agent will check the results. Inside the agent itself, there might be stages that are dependent on each other, and they are very different. So the model is relevant for code generation, but the whole workflow inside the agent causes the different results. And well, it's very hard to compare the agents, but it's very fun.
Also, the
I mean,
temperature is not set to 0 by default, right?
it might be set to 0 on by default on one stage, and might be creative, some creative temperature on the latter stage. So it's the whole workflow is so different inside the
Let's see what
agent.
this
So
is doing.
that's why the results are different.
Oh, isn't this weird? Look at this. It's checked off a couple of them, and then it jumped all the way down and did these.
Yeah, this
And
is
then
I see happening that with Junie. Sometimes it makes a plan and then says, okay, it seems that it's more logical to proceed without the intermediate tasks.
okay,
It's strange. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, isn't that weird? This is bothering. Oh, the server is running, but I tried it. There's no analytics service class. It was referenced but not created. Oops.
Okay.
That's not going to be good. Currently has an error because it was referenced but never created. You can still use all the certificate generation features. Okay, well, let's shut down the server. See, that's the problem with doing it inside here. I can't see that the server's running. And I don't want to, I want to be able to see that. Oh, it's killing it? Wow, that's brutal.
Yeah. Just a second. I will switch to my screen to show people, because people are asking where to find the Discord channel. So if you
Yeah, I
go
can find it.
On Junie website, there is like Made with Junie, and there is this Discord link. We should actually make it bigger to easier to find. And yeah, this is the one, the first one, right? So please use that to join our community.
I'll have to try that as well. Okay, some tests are passing. That's good to see.
Yeah.
Data storage layer was implemented, including the creation of the aggregated metric service. Okay, all tests passed successfully, and this one really does look like there were tests that ran. Yeah, there they are, just like we
Mhm.
thought. Now over here, I said, if we're going to run that analytics dashboard, we need the analytics event service. Oh, wait, do I need to create it? No. Okay. Do we need? Oh, yeah. Removing the incorrect file that references the analytics event service. Please try again. I do like the fact that I could just use my up arrow I'm using Oh My Z Shell, which probably most
Mhm.
people are familiar with. So I do have the history in my terminal, and that makes it easier to deal with that. I don't know how to get back older commands in here,
Oh
that I
yeah.
have to do over and over again.
Not possible right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not an obvious mechanism for that. I could try like banging on the keyboard or something, and makes me feel better anyway.
Yeah.
I
Maybe we can. Oh, now it
There we
seems.
go. Okay, now this time I really am going to run it in a different
Yeah. Yeah.
terminal.
Let's switch the branch.
New tab to the right. Let's go. I think I had this under Java, and then this is certificate service, and we're on the analytics dashboard. So let's see, git checkout feature analytics dashboard. Okay, what's the situation here? Isn't that interesting? The package. Oh, it's the whole source main Java with the new package and source test Java with the new package have not yet been committed. I wonder if I should have those committed. Whoops, the wrong one over here.
Yeah.
What is the git status? Let's try that. Maybe it'll realize it needs to do that. And if this actually works, that's a win. I mean, if we were able to actually see anything at all, I'd be really impressed if all that's done. Untracked analytics files appears the changes I made weren't fully captured. Right. So there's my git log one line. I see we're not on the right branch. Come on, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Please try again. That's what I meant to say. I hit enter too quickly.
Yeah.
And this one's done. So we're okay with Junie at the moment.
Yeah, I think so.
And the fact we're mixing branches is very dangerous, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, I'll join the Discord server after we're done. Look at this. Now my auto compact, we're getting close. See, 17%.
It will be interesting to see what happens when we compact it.
It just, well, you'll see the summary.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's what I'm going to add to the thing I showed you with the Star Trek one, where to get the computer. Right now, it spits back the text that comes out of OS query, and I don't really want that audio to have it read that huge text block to me. But what I could do is send that text to an AI tool and say, please summarize this, and then have that translated to audio and have it read back that. So it'll summarize the results, and it'll show me the text, the full text of what happened here. Come on, you can do it. Okay, there we go.
Git status porcelain. I don't think I have seen this command ever.
Yeah, what is that? What the heck is porcelain? That sounds breakable. Looks like we're on that feature. Yeah. Please try again. Oh, now it's switched over to the other branch. Uh-oh. Well, I guess that would be okay because the Junie's not doing anything anymore. Junie's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So it won't hurt anything to commit. Okay, there. Now it should be all right. And now I can go back to, let's see, if I hit enter, nope, still got an issue here. Oh, look at all those files. All right, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to do a git add myself. So there's the new files, and I'll do a git commit. Fix classes. I mean, just to keep it simple. And now I can go Gradle W, boot run, and see if it works. Okay. Hibernate, JTA, H2 dialect, H2 console available. I think we are running. And now I already had this URL. And not good.
Okay.
Holy mackerel. Okay, wait a minute. Where's the first failure? Function date not found.
Okay.
It's a generated SQL went bad. Could not prepare the statement, run, or function date not found, SQL statement, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Wow. I wonder what that had, what triggered that? Go back to the feature /.
Oh, but did it run the correct branch?
Yeah, I did it manually.
Uh-huh.
I'm on the I'm on the wrong one. Look at that. I did it again.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me see if this is I don't want to do it while I was trying to switch something there. Okay, now we're on that branch.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there we are. And now I could try running again with the boot run. Actually, I want to make, whoops, sorry. I keep thinking I'm on another virtual window. I'm not. There we are. So git checkout on that one. Okay. And now I can do the boot run again and see if it starts up. and see
Because
if we get an element.
previous one was from Junie, and we did not complete the task with Junie anyway, so
Right.
that's kind of expected that it will fail.
So it both did run on the same branch, which is possible. I didn't want it to. It was supposed to keep them separate, but I wasn't monitoring it closely, and it could have switched to another one. Then, all right, let's see if we get anything here at all. And we got the same crash, I bet. Actually, what's it say? Complete initialization. I don't see an
Okay.
error. I mean, a 404 not found is.
Refresh.
I just did that.
Okay, that's
Uh,
strange.
Let me go to just localhost 8080, which should be the root of the. Yeah, that's the normal certificate generation page.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's supposed to be the admin dashboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Admin, that's not going to exist. And then it was after admin. So what was the URL? Did it say it? Oh, here, over
I
here.
think it was in a different window.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, what is the URL for the admin dashboard? I'll just ask it again. And that ought to, I really hope that works because we're getting toward the end here. Yeah, admin dashboard, which is what I thought was admin.
People are saying that they both worked on the same work tree,
Yeah,
but
I'm afraid it was. I don't know. I hope it wasn't, but I was afraid it might be.
I think Junie worked on its own branch, and because it did git checkout branch, or did it? Yeah, it did create a new branch. At least we have those two branches both created.
Yeah, but I was trying to keep the two of them separate, and it wasn't doing it. Because I don't know which one of them was started modifying on the wrong branch, or maybe they were each modifying. It would switch a branch, and then something it wouldn't check which branch it was on when it did the commit. You know what I mean? It could very easily have been the fact I'm running both.
Well, currently we are here. We are in a Junie branch. If we do Command K, we will see all the changes in the commit window, and we can check if the if we can see any of
It's all committed. Everything's been committed.
uh,
By the way, this is what I use AI Assistant for the most. AI Assistant generates awesome commit messages.
mm-hmm,
I really like that. I mean, GitHub, I also have GitHub Copilot, and that one's okay, but I use AI Assistant for the Git commit messages and for the little in the terminal where it says explain with AI when you get an exception. It's
mm-hmm.
pretty good about that too.
I see.
Yeah. You have to
Well,
use Git work
it's
trees. I have never used a Git work tree, and that I'm sure is my deficiency. I am going to have to clear that up. Do you use Git work trees or not?
well, this is one of the things I wish the AI tooling gets up to is when you are doing something and it's obviously wrong, or it will be wrong in a few steps, then it would warn you about that. Or imagine implementing a feature, and then you are doing something, you are introducing the new classes, and then AI tooling would tell you, hey, we have that other task in the issue tracker that if you implement this feature this way, you're going to have to do a lot of refactoring in order to implement the other feature. So,
Uh-huh.
kind of a little bit more forward looking assistance from this AI tooling. And this is something that does not exist yet, right?
That might be asking a lot. I don't know. Because I mean, usually, how often are you going to have two AI tools operating on the same project at the same time? I mean, I guess you
Well,
could.
I think we are moving to the direction where we will have tens of different agents working on a local machine at the same time, and maybe
Yeah,
there could be some supervision agent like built into the OS that would notify you that, hey, dude, you are doing stupid things,
I wonder
right?
if we had. Oh, by the way, we're about to see a compact. See, I'm down to 1%.
Let me move the layout a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Now,
there, no, that's not, wow, now we're at 0%. So now it says we should be able to get there, but I bet we can't. Let's find out. Localhost refused to connect. Yeah, I think we wound up, or it's my fault. I should have been paying attention to that. That we were, we were having two tools on different branches that could possibly conflict with each other. I doubt if this is working either. Yeah, I think
I
localhost
see.
is down now.
I see.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
well, we failed implementing the functionality, but that was not the point of the stream anyway.
Well,
We can think of the outcomes. What did we learn? I mean that
ha,
one thing we learned, that not doing the concurrent work on the same repository without
here,
Git working
compacting.
trees. Uh-huh. Would be not the greatest idea, but the workflows, like the differences between the tools, like how do you feel? Like Junie does not have a lot of features, right? But if you figure out the workflow, it kind of can progress steadily and give you the results, right? Like there is definitely some sort of a workflow that tries to implement functionality and validate it and iterate on that constantly. In Cloud Code, it feels like the they are more focused on the interaction, that you always confirm, you're always like keeping control of what is changing.
Well, okay, wait a minute. First of all, yes, I didn't put it in brave mode for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, this, you see this huge thing in gray here?
Uh-huh.
This is the compact conversation. So it's being continued from a previous conversation, and it's looking through the conversation chronologically. Here's the initial request, and this is what we did. And then there's the status checks, and here's the summary. And it goes on and on and on. And then now we're down to that point. Now, I did ask it to compare the two branches. And the one thing I could tell you for sure, none of this bothered main. I didn't modify the main branch at all.
Mm-hmm.
So worst comes to worst, I merge both branches together just to see if they work together, or I ask it to resolve that issue.
I
Because
see.
I can go ahead and explain that. But at
But
any
if
rate,
we check the project in the ID, we have this new functionality for Spring to check all the endpoints, like
oh yeah, yeah,
in the
right.
structure. If you navigate to the main class, it's Spring Boot, right? If you go to the application class and open the structure window, it's
Okay, so you want
com-
me to go to the class with the main method in it, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
that one I think is the where's my application here?
Yeah, the
There.
application
And now you
class.
say go to the structure window, and what do
Yeah,
I
there are
want?
scanned components, and we can explore a little bit what kind of. There are controllers, as you can see.
And
Uh,
repositories and services,
I think analytics controller is the one that we just created, isn't it?
analytics dashboard, and analytics controller,
Yeah.
which
So
auto wires in the service.
hmm so the endpoint is right there. I wonder why. Like, what one of the things with Spring, like
Well, let's
generally,
let's do
almost
this.
all the
I'll open it.
LLMs are pretty good with generating the code, but one thing they're struggling with is setting up the security rules for all these things. Maybe that's why we couldn't access that.
Well,
Could
I
it
was
be
going
the
to go
case?
into the
Uh
well,
huh.
I'd have to start up the server, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I could start the server. So where was our application? Just as the last thing to try here, let me start the server running. And there it goes. It's up in, that was pretty fast, like 3 seconds. And now I can go to the analytics dashboard controller and go to the admin dashboard and say, let's open that in the HTTP client,
Yeah.
for example. And let's get this out of the way. And I don't think that's going to work, but let's see what happens.
It's error
Internal
function.
server error. That's no
Internal
information at
function.
all.
Like in the run console, you will actually see the
Yeah,
exception, I think.
right, right. So let's
Yeah,
see. That
must be something.
function
Yeah.
date not found. Yeah, we got a syntax problem. And that does happen that every once in a while you make a class, like you never make a class named, what was the class name that I ran into? Oh yeah, I think it was start and end. You never make a property called start and end in your
Oh,
in your entity because start and end are SQL keywords and therefore they're interpreted incorrectly by the SQL.
yeah.
And I'll bet that's what happened is that we have a property that it called date or something.
No,
And
no, no,
therefore,
no. It's on the next line. You can see select date as function, and
yeah.
it doesn't
But
recognize the function.
why did it do that? Yeah. I mean, it should know there is no function for that.
Let's select this exception just for a sec. Like select a few lines, the first line and the some of the stack trace. Right click on that and explain error message with AI.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know where you're going with that. So this is the AI assistant now. And this one I've had pretty good luck with this. So yeah, we're using a date function. We knew that, but where was it in the code? Likely in a repository or service. Oh, that narrows it down. So try to replace it with cast timestamp as data, whatever. Yeah, but I can't. We're not writing the SQL.
We are
So
writing the query in.
find daily event counts. Yeah, I'd have to follow on that, and I don't know that we have that kind of time unless you want me to go look at it.
No, no, no. Like it's not the
I mean,
point.
I
It's
could do
just
a big search here for date, and no, no.
uh, the next line, I think. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
Exactly.
and then why is that in the way? Oh, that's we got the plans file, but it
Hmm.
should be in analytics repository. I don't see an analytics repository. Huh.
Strange.
Okay, that's weird. Maybe that's in a task that didn't get implemented in this branch. It was in the other branch.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, I could probably
Yeah.
track it down,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think that's probably what happened. I don't know why it picked a function that is not standard SQL or something, but so be it.
Indeed.
Anything else you want to talk about or do or whatever?
Uh, Not at this time. I think it's worth for everybody to try the plugin in IntelliJ IDEA. Yes, it's actually a good workflow with the
Yeah, here's the plugin.
terminal-based cloud code, but trying it with the within IntelliJ IDEA is also a good thing. And
Yeah, here's
I'm pretty
plugins.
sure people, folks from Anthropic would like to get your feedback. So uh, no problem there. Just go and try. As for Junie, well, we still stick to this plan, tasks, execute iteratively, and it seems to produce a good result.
Yeah, and that brave mode is brave. Maybe a somewhat more fine grained
Yeah,
permission.
I really like the permission system from Cloud Code. Like,
Okay,
if you
okay.
really want to control this incrementally, I feel like it's more natural for
And
myself.
the one thing you didn't point out that I thought is a big selling point of Junie, it's a lot less expensive than Claude Code. I mean, Claude Code is either by the tokens, which add up fast, or it's like I say, $100 a month. And I think I paid $100 a year for AI. What do you call it? The AI tooling, AI assistant, AI.
AI assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, and that included Junie right out of the box. So it's hard to beat that.
It seems that it is cheaper, but it's hard to compare right now.
Okay,
I wouldn't give my hand for this right now.
I'm trying to be nice to my host.
I'm trying to be
No, I
honest here.
honestly, I will say that I have been a big fan of IntelliJ and JetBrains in general for, oh, I don't know, 10 years or more. I mean, I think I switched. I was an Eclipse user throughout the 2000s. Even as people were gradually migrating over to IntelliJ, the fact that IntelliJ required a license and Eclipse was free was a really strong argument. But Eclipse got bigger and clunkier and creakier over time, and IntelliJ just kept getting better and better and better. And I also knew there was a big learning curve.
Well, what we expect is that we have more support from the platform because, well, Junie is a plugin and IntelliJ is a platform, and as the platform evolves, we'll get more different good agents on that platform. So you have a choice whether you like Junie, maybe you like some other workflow, but it still will be your favorite ID.
And everybody I've ever met from JetBrains has been charming and helpful. I mean, just good people, you know. So that also makes me root for you. As you say, I was a training partner for Kotlin for a while. By the way, my contact information, you know, there's my Blue Sky account is at cousinit.com. Although my wife calls it cousin it, you know, it's her idea. And I'm
Right.
also on LinkedIn, but feel free to keep in touch. I'd be happy to see you. And my email address was ken.cousin@cousinit.com.
Perfect. So thanks, Ken, for coming, and thanks everybody for joining us on the stream and commenting and asking questions. And see you on the next one.
Yep, good luck.
Bye bye.